When we look at now with the work your dad has done and a lot of the people in the forest department, a lot of non-governmental organizations, so there has been a surge in the population of certain big animals and other species as well. But when we have just 5% of land, which is the wildlife land, with an ever-growing population of human beings, which doesn't seem to end. It's like a never-ending supply. How do you manage this, right? Because we get more tigers, we get more elephants, you get more leopards, you get all these, the deer population, but there's inevitably going to be a spillover into, urbanized land, right? So how do you deal with that situation?
So I think human wildlife conflict, which is something I've worked on for over 10 years, is truly one of the greatest challenges we face in conservation in both in India and worldwide. And it's the price of success as well, because we've recovered animals in some parts of India, particularly in states like Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra. You see this spillover, you see elephants coming out, and you see tigers, leopards coming out, and when they run into people, sometimes there's conflict. And so for me, the 5% is sacrosanct. We have to do everything that we can
Yeah.
to protect that 5%. But I also think we need to start being ambitious about looking at how do you build more space for wildlife. What's very clear to me is giving up the 5% to people is not going to solve human problems.
Yeah.
If 95% of India can't solve human problems, the last 5% doesn't have a magic bullet in it, right?
Yeah.
And why can't we be more aspirational about saying, why can't we think of 10% of India being set aside for wildlife? There are enough examples of countries around the world where urbanization has pulled people out of rural areas, and they've built very efficient cities that also work for people. And we see migrants pouring in and out of these cities, and there are opportunities to create space for wildlife. One thing India hasn't done, which if you go to parts of Africa and the US, you see, is private reserves.
Yeah.
We've all of our land is that's set aside for wildlife is managed by the government, which is fine, but we can add another 1, 2, 3 more percent if we start looking at private conservancies, whether it's individuals, community groups, or corporations starting to protect land. And the simplest example to me is coffee land and tea land. We have so much land under coffee, tea, rubber plantations in the Western Ghats, in northeastern India.
Yeah.
And if private individuals and entities say, we will manage these, you can still grow your coffee and tea, allow free passage for the large animals, and sustain birds and amphibians on your land, we'll still have more space for wildlife. And I think it's building that mindset that individuals and corporations can make a difference today, which I don't see in a very big way in India right now.
Okay, so on a very different note, there's this huge upsurge after this Netflix documentary, right? The one about the tiger thing, Tiger King, I think that's what it was called. So now apparently there are quite these crazy people who have these huge ranches with tigers and these big cats. And when you said private people with a lot of money, a lot of land, is that even advisable? I mean, how eccentric or dangerous, or does it make sense?
So this has gone to the other extreme in the US, where the estimated numbers of tigers in captivity on ranches and farms is somewhere between 10 and 20,000 animals, right?
Wow.
So here in India, we're trying to save about 4,000 wild tigers.
Wow.
And there's 20,000 of them in captivity, like the Tiger King documentary. And I think what they are doing is horrendous, and there's been a lot of investigations, and they're just one example of many in the world. There was this zoo in Thailand. Monks were drugging tigers, and so there's a lot of these examples, right? And
right.
I don't think we should I think having a few well managed large zoos which with enough government scrutiny is good enough for people to have that touch point to wild animals. But private individuals keeping tigers and alligators, and
it's crazy.
It's crazy, and I don't think we should be encouraging that. For me, it's managing land next to parks is what I was talking about, right? If you own land next to wildlife areas.